Thanks so much for listening to No Lions Here with me, Big Panda. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to No Lions Here. My name is Big Panda, and I'm a recovering sex addict. On today's show, I have with me, I almost said the second time, welcome back, because a little bit of backstory. I have with me today Raina Hampton. Now, Raina Hampton is the partner intensive lead over at Begin Again Institute. Shout out to Begin Again Institute as a sponsor for the show. If you or anyone you know is suffering from sex, love, or porn addiction, as well as if you're a betrayed partner, definitely go check out everything that they're doing. They not only have intensives for men, they also have intensives for the betrayed partners, the women that are affected by sexual addiction, which is not something that we think a lot about in this conversation around sexual addiction. We oftentimes, the partners seem to have really don't have much of a place to go to. I think that it's awesome. So with me today, I have Raina. And Raina, you're not only a therapist and a lead, right? You're also, a mother, a human being. I mean, you're so much more than what you do at BAI. But welcome. I say back to the show because we've tried this once and we had some technical issues. So we're back again. So Raina, welcome to No Lions Here.
Oh, thank you, Alex. Thank you so much for having me. I enjoy your show. It's just refreshing. I love that it's just very, I don't know, organic, I guess I would say. So I enjoy listening to it. So thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Yeah. No, again, I'm excited, right? I think I'm actually talking to another, like, a life coach around. She specializes in like families of addicts, and so this year, like, part of one of my missions and goals is to kind of focus on and bring light to like the partner aspect of this, right? Because some of the things that we talked about last time, which you said that like really impacted me, was like the isolation piece around not only like myself being a sex addict and knowing the isolation piece in that is full of shame, and it just makes me want to cover my head in the sand and run away, right? And you actually brought up this really interesting part last time when we talked about how the betrayed partners also feel very isolated in that.
Mhm.
And like that was something that just like completely blew my mind, because here we are on two ends of the spectrum kind of talking about the exact same thing, right? Shame and isolation.
Yeah, I know. It's hard. Partners, they have discoveries. They maybe knew something was going on, but then it comes out into the open where you can't hide it anymore. The men maybe will just tell them straight up, like, this is what's been going on. And then that's when, a couple different things happen. And one of them is the thought, and a lot of partners have told me, this doesn't happen to anyone else. I'm the only one, especially some partners who are in like faith communities. Like, they're like, everyone else has it together. Why me? So they start hiding. And that's when they're carrying his shit. And now they're carrying their own stuff that they need to heal. Yeah, I have one couple I was working with, and say like she was in a faith community. I can't share this with anyone. What's gonna happen to us as a family? What's gonna happen to him? So she's hiding it. She's hiding her own pain. They're like, by themselves, just erupting with so much pain and secrets and more lies are trying to be, layered on top. And then 5 years goes by, and then she develops her own addictions. She develops her own kind of secret sexual life and starts to go out and explore, because why not? And anyway, so then I get them after like 5 or 6 years, and now they're both betrayed partners. And it's just a lot more layers of healing, and it's so possible, and there's so many beautiful things that can come from that scenario. But if a partner can reach out and get help and know that there's so many people out there who've gone through this is, I mean, it's running rampant. The sad truth that the porn industry, that that it is out to get everyone. They want addicts to find them. And I don't know. So yeah, that's kind of my passion, is just like, don't be alone. Don't think that you have to do this by yourself. There's so many resources out there. And BAI, I get to be part of our intensives, and we also have continuing groups. We have coaching groups that we run for partners that meet weekly with our awesome coaches that are AppStats trained and certified. And then, of course, going through BAI from the men's perspective, the partners get to do 6 meetings with coaches while their partners are, kind of locked away, getting their healing done in Colorado for 2 weeks. And then the partners get, 6 days. And it's more of like an introduction and more of like a stabilization and trying to teaching them the language and the terms and, what is a boundary? I don't even know what that is. Or what is all the circles? What is my man going to come home with? So that's more designed just to kind of set them up like for this is going to be a journey, you know. So yeah, kind of passionate. Sorry.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
didn't want to know.
No, dude. Don't ever apologize for the passion. Like I love it, right? This truly is a passion, right? And journey is such a great word. And like, so if we're talking about passion, right? So before we get into kind of like, hey, well, this is what the intensive looks like and the app sats and what's all that mean. Like, Raina, let's talk a little bit more about like your personal passion. We were talking about, before we hit record, it's like, we all have a journey that led us to this spot, right? Like, I didn't think that I would ever be in recovery as a sex addict, let alone starting a podcast talking about my sexual addiction. I'm sure, as a little girl growing up and dreaming, what your life is going to look like. That, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know if was the vision, hey, Betray Partners, that's who I'm going to work with. So what kind of got you into this space? And again, this is always what fascinates me, because again, right, we think we have this idea of what our life is going to look like. And then at some point in time, there's typically maybe not a hard turn, but a shift in, hey, I'm actually going to go this way. And I didn't think that this was going to be possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I did not, when I was a little girl, didn't even know what a counselor was, honestly. I went into the art. I went art, like I loved art and design. So that's where my journey started in college. But even before that, I think I loved people. Like I loved God and I loved people. And I'm like, how do I serve both? So I got involved in this ministry, this nonprofit called Young Life when I was in high school. And I remember one of the women that was, because we had like mentors that would walk with us and would put up with all of our like crap and would just love us. And she would always say, she's like, the two most important things in life are God and people. And I was like, yes, that I agree with that. How do I do that? How do I do both? So met my husband in college. I'm from South Louisiana originally, so I'm a Cajun girl. Went to LSU, go Tigers, and got involved in Young Life. And have been doing that with my husband since, gosh, 2000, like it's been a long time, since 2020, 2002. Sorry. So that's when he kind of went on and decided he'd do this for a job. And he did some military stuff, and we went through some deployments together. Had 4 kids along the way, so I'm very proud of my family and our kids, and I'm very proud of him. He sacrificed a lot to really serve teens and young adults in college settings. And so then later in life, my kids were getting older, and I decided to go back to school because I wanted to continue to serve these amazing students. We kind of had grown them up. So it was like every 4 years we would kind of say bye to these college students and have a new crop of students. And I wanted to just continue to serve them and get more tools. So I went back to school as a grown up. I think my 2 older kids were in high school at the time. So I'm getting my master's in um, marriage and family therapy. Loved it, loved couple work. Started to see some like problematic sexual behavior just in my couples work, but I didn't have a definition for it. I didn't know what betrayal trauma was even in school. And I went to a really, really good school. And so then, crazy story, I'm on the side of a mountain in Boulder, Colorado at this kind of wine and cheese night with some friends. And I meet Ed and Matt, who run BAI, and they had been invited from another Young Life connection in the South. It was just a crazy story. So they're telling me what they do, and I'm telling them what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about the, neuroscience behind like the why and the how that we operate. And so they were like, you need to call us. I think we would fit well together, like what we're doing, and we want to, do more for partners in the work we do. So I show up at the BAI offices in Longmont, Colorado. They explained to me, the work what they're doing with men and the work they had started to do with the partners. They had kind of brought in other therapists, like flown them in to kind of run a couple quick intensives throughout the years. But they really had a vision to have someone that was like, foundational BAI, foundational polyvagal theory, kind of trauma informed, experiential type therapy, and serve partners in a deeper way, deeper healing than just like the PSP, just the meetings that run alongside of the men's intensives for the partners. And so I just kept saying yes. Like that's what Ed kept saying. If you just keep saying yes, we'll just keep talking and figuring out what this looks like. So literally that's what kept happening. I would say yes. I had this, I had an offer to go work at this other counseling practice that was so and I don't want to say easy, but it was just like a very like normal onboarding. It was just like we're gonna just give you clients. You're just gonna show up, we're gonna give you clients. And I'm like, no, I want to do hard. I want to do something hard. Like I want to like help develop this program for partners. I can't imagine, what they're going through, what they're feeling. Cause I had seen the work already, but didn't know exactly how to approach these guys, these couples. And not to mention, in just something personal early on in our marriage with my husband, he had problems with porn. I mean, he was in a frat. He was in college and starting the internet was like just, I think like we were still like using dial up back then, right? But like wireless was starting to be a thing. And I remember
Well, I
just,
remember dial up.
I know, like you would just wait. We had such patience back then, like our 90s selves. But I know. I love Nate Bargatze. I don't know if you know the comedian Nate Bargatze, but he calls the 90s generation we're the lucky
Yes,
ones.
I love him. He's great.
Yeah, because we're like on the cusp of like the iPhone, but we had the pagers, and so we're like we were on both. We have patience. We like know how to like get it, in high school I would get a page on my pager. You'd have to find a payphone and call your friend back, right? So anyway, so I digress. But yeah, so my husband, like he kind of started to get drug into that whole world of pornography online. And luckily we caught it in the very beginning. So I have experienced betrayal in that sense, of coming in and seeing him and not understanding why or what or how, what is this doing for him? And like, am I not enough as a new wife? But we got help pretty early on. Just like our pastor, some really great men came around my husband. So in a sense, we were lucky. It came out in the open really early. We got some help. But if that hadn't happened, I don't know where, I mean, who knows where we would be if, he hadn't have been caught. He had a really great attachment to his mom. His parents were really amazing. For him, intimacy was more natural. It was more like he needed that connection from these other men and even from me as like a new wife back then. All that to say, as I'm learning, in the past couple of years, how to be a therapist for betrayed partners and, just the important aspects to bring up in counseling and to really bring truth out in the open and, even address the pain, the anger, the grief, and, really challenging clients to stay in that. Like it can be such a teacher, it can be such a place of growth and intimacy if we allow it. And so I was lucky in that sense that my husband sought help pretty early. And then now I just feel so honored and blessed to be, some of these women that we're the first that they share these dark secrets to. They're the first that we see tears instead of anger. We see some of them, we see anger instead of tears. So yeah, so that's how I got here. And, last year we ran 5 intensives, which, was sweet to be a part of. And then started our coaching arm of BAI for partners, which has been really cool. There's a lot of women who are meeting weekly and just getting support and getting resourced and having a space to share and to know themselves better and know, kind of have like their prefrontal cortex back online, right? Because when we get assaulted in our nervous systems, that goes offline and it's real hard to make decisions. So a lot of these partners, are kind of able to come back and say, like, hey, what do I want? One of our coaches, Katie, who I love, she'll say, let's not waste a good crisis. So because this has happened, this is the reality, this is the truth now. Your nervous system, it's coming back online, like we're able to function. What do you want to do now? What do you want to do with this? Do you want to stay? Do you want to go? If you
Yeah.
stay, if you go, like, who can you reach out? Like, how are you getting healing? How are you speaking out about this too? When they get to that kind of stage of post-traumatic growth, that's one of the cool things to see when women start to do something with it to help others, and that comes later, of course, but that is always
Yeah.
pretty special. So,
Yeah.
so there's my passion, Alex.
Yeah, it's like what I yeah, no, thanks for sharing that. There's something in there like I love that, like, okay, so what do you want to do with this? So in
Mm-hmm.
what I can see, and so like the parallels between, right? So you're talking about betrayed partners. Well, in my own recovery, right? Like, how many times I've been asked by a sponsor, or I've posted this question to somebody. It's like, okay, what are you gonna do about it? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
yes, this thing happened. What are you going to do about it? And then just the empowering in the choices, right? I feel like that's where we find our power, is that, like, hey, you have a choice here. What do you want to do with it?
Yeah.
And like, and I love the honesty too, because there's certain times where, like, my sponsor, and again, I'll relate this to my recovery, is like, there's a time where I'd be in a spot, man, maybe I'm throwing a pity party or whatever, and my sponsor's like, what do you want to do about it? And sometimes the answer is, I don't want to do anything about it.
Mm.
But even in saying that, even I think when people, like, when people are posed with that question, like, there is an acceptable answer of, like, whatever you're honestly feeling. Like, do you want to do anything about it right now, or do you want to stay there, or do you want to leave there, right? And so I think the power in choice is so important for anybody going through any kind of healing journey, because I almost feel like I am powerless over certain things, and however, I'm not powerless over my choices. I still always have a choice, which I think is a beautiful thing in all of this. Can really help us out. So one of the things I wanted to ask you was, so in going through, you're going back, you're getting your master's, like, so obviously, if you're in and around the counseling world, right, about the DSM-5, right? And that is, hey, this lists all of the things. Well, sexual addiction has seemed to kind of elude, and not necessarily, I mean, fully make it in there. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if it's changed, but you got people and therapists still out there that don't believe that, like, sexual addiction is necessarily a real addiction.
Yeah.
And so, like, what do you kind of say to that? And I don't know if, going through schooling, I mean, was sexual addiction talked about at all, or was it not until you kind of got into your own practice and started working with clients where you're like, oh wait, hold on a second, there's some troublesome stuff going on here?
Yeah, it was not talked about. I think now, and gosh, and I don't work a ton with, I don't, and I'm blessed. I don't have to diagnose a lot of my clients because they don't need that. I'm self-pay. And with BAI, it is like I mean, like, it is
That's
cash,
nice.
like, so it's not like insurance needs a diagnosis. So again, luckily, even, in the last place I worked, didn't need to do a whole lot of diagnosing. I know it is a little bit slippery because, you pathologize something, you say this is a diagnosis, this is something there's a problem with it. And then you've got the $1 billion porn industry out there saying, like, no, it's not. People are free, like, they can do what they want. They can manage this. But I think it's like one of those, like, not a Z code, but it's like under something else where it's like it could be an addition to something else. Problematic sexual behavior is like you can add it as like an addition to something. So there's that in there. But yeah, it's not like an actual diagnosis. And again, it doesn't affect me a whole lot in my work. But as I was doing work before I even knew the term betrayal trauma, before, I had been really educated on problematic sexual behaviors and addictions, um, I could see the relational aspect, what was happening between a couple where, the woman comes in and says, I found a burner phone. I found, text messages to some woman or a lot of women. And he's dismissing it. He's making excuses. Oh, that was years ago. It's like dismissal, denial. He minimizes it. He makes it like, oh, but you're not giving me enough sex. So I had to just do a little something about it. It's not a big deal, not a big deal. I think that's where I started to see like, okay, yeah, there's something going on with him. I mean, I know about porn. I know about massage parlor. I knew like all of that, but didn't realize what it was actually coming from and didn't have the tools at the moment to really dive in to say like, okay, hey, like there's some trauma going on with him. There's a place where he cannot go to her for intimacy. There's a block. And now, of course I know a lot of it comes from, childhood. A lot of it comes from not, attachment figures not being um warm and inviting. It comes from, you know, men and women having to kind of take care of themselves and say, hey, well, I can't trust my attachment figure. I can't trust my caregiver. So I have to go over and make up stories because I need them still, but there has to be a reason why they're not giving me attention. They're not giving me this warmth and care I need. So I have to go over here. And then that's where this other, addiction starts to come in. There's that part of it, which the guy needs, or the woman needs some care and attention there. But everything starts to just be either put on the partner, right? And like now she's experiencing this like jagged reality of, wait, is it my fault? Am I not being a good enough wife? Is it not a huge deal? Porn's everywhere now. So that's what I started to see, that relational dynamic between them started deteriorating. And so thank goodness I found BAI. I found, APSATs and how to actually treat this from a trauma informed perspective with care. It's very slow. The truth has to come out. There has to be a space of like, and I even love what you said, Alex, like your sponsor would ask you, like, what do you want to do with this? And whatever you said, they accept you and they're with you in it. And so, with a couple, working with a couple back then, that was like one of the first steps with a couple, who's even in this relational like mess of dismissing, and the wife's like, what's real? Having a counselor even to step in to say like, I'm here, I accept you, let's figure this out. So that's a really long answer to what you just asked me about, like, why isn't it maybe a diagnosis? Why isn't it, I mean, it is harmful, and it is perpetuating, and it's getting worse. I want to say, I think I had told you this last time, and this sticks in my mind. I heard a speaker last year at the SILS conference, the Sexual Integrity Leadership Summit. And, she just point blank said I think 70% of men who were given the survey, 70% of men in the church who were given the survey said that they had used porn or were engaged in porn in some way. And what she said really kind of like haunts me. She said the porn industry is going after the 30%. The ones that said, I'm not using porn, I'm not, using it. That's who they're going after. They've already got the 70%. And so that haunts me because they have billions to put towards this. Like I even heard recently, like all of the major advances in technology have come from the pornography industry, which, because even my boys, like I have 3 boys and I have covenant eyes for them. I've covenant eyes for my husband's phone. And even my son, he's like, Mom, AI gets through the covenant eyes, like a
Yeah.
lot, app. So now AI is like a thing. Like It's everywhere. I use it. I kind of have really, it's really helped me. But anyway, all that to say, yeah, it
Wow.
needs to
Oh,
be.
it's so you touch on that AI. I mean, I feel like we could just do, a whole sub series on AI and what AI is doing. And AI is a great thing. I use it for the show, right? AI is it's awesome. I use it for the show. It helps me edit. It helps me. But then, I was on the couch not too long ago. Me and the girlfriend were talking about this, and like I was scrolling through reels, and next thing that pops up is like this, like I'm your AI girlfriend, and you can upload pictures of exes, ex-partners, co-workers. It's like, holy crap. Like, and now of course, like, now, so I'm a sex addict, right? So I saw that, and of course, the wheels start turning, right? I'm like, oh god. Like, and then I kind of had, snapped to reality and was like, oh my gosh, this is terrifying. Not only is sexual addiction in the betrayal piece so isolating, now we're basically saying, like, to anybody who's single or in a loveless, intimacy less relationship, hey, just download this app and I'll take care of everything for you. And like, is somebody who grew up, you touched on this piece, right? Like, not getting what I needed from my caregivers and having to try to figure this out on my own, man, like, oh my god, that's a godsend, right? Like, let me just download this app and upload these pictures, and like, it's just it's terrifying. it's
It
really
is.
it's really scary.
Yeah, my husband the other day was like joking around. He
It's
had a picture of us when we were in college together, like our first date night sorority thing that I brought him to. And I have the picture framed because it was like our first date. And so he has it and he uploads it on AI and he's like, make us like dance together. And so it literally took us as, gosh, we were 21 and we started interacting in this photo together, like on like a Harry Potter. It was like the Harry Potter kind of thing with photos, like, but it became like a little bit like sexualized. Like I was a little bit like, oh my gosh, like, and that's not me. Like it was just it's so, yeah, that's a little haunting. So he was kind of like, okay, let's just delete that. Let's not even go there.
yeah.
Um, yeah,
Like, oh,
terrifying is
yeah, yeah,
a great word. Just
yeah.
like
it's
be alert and aware. And so, yeah.
it's again, like, it's just not only, then you kind of get into this, like, this realm of, like, I had a sponsee hit me up the other day, like, you kind of get into this realm of like consent, in he had read some article about, people were kind of starting to get in trouble for using AI, uploading, say, a friend's sister's picture, and then that picture is now undressing, and like, it really freaked him out to the point where, like, he had to call me and we talked about it, and it gave me something to think about. We're talking about, like, consent. Like, this person is not consenting that I use their picture in this way, and yet here I am over here running wild with
Hmm.
some material that nobody has given me consent to use. And again, that's just another scary piece of all this.
I know it is, but I'm glad he had you to go to say like, no, I'm guessing he knows. I mean, I'm guessing he like knows what he's after. Like you're after intimacy, you're after like, soothing versus
Yes.
comforting, and so he went to
Yes.
you for comfort, Alex. That's how cool is that? I love that. I love that there's people
Yes.
out there like you that are
Yeah,
courageous and available,
no, thank you for that. I appreciate that. I actually had one of my therapists told me, I really struggled with acting out in my whole recovery. I've been in recovery now for 5 years. Um, I've got, in May it'll be, God willing, right? It'll be 2 years sober from bottom line acting out behaviors. So, but it took me some time to get there, right? And I laugh about it now, but it's just like, oh my god, like, I never thought that I'd ever be in this spot. But I had a therapist one time tell me I just kept acting out, kept acting out, kept acting out, and she said, Alex, like, let's look at this as like you're trying to soothe and comfort yourself. And I was like, that completely, like, changed the light bulb. I don't think I necessarily stopped acting out right then and there, but that definitely shifted a perspective for me. And again, right, the shift in perspective. We all have a perspective. All of our perspectives, they're all not wrong. However, like, let me shift my perspective. It's one of the things I try to teach people in recovery, anybody that I talk to. Like, it's about perspective on how I'm showing up. And I think, again, regardless of what healing journey you're on, like if we can just shift that perspective just a little bit over time, right? I think that it really changes the whole trajectory of our journey.
Yeah.
So is you've got these partners, right? These partners reach out to you now, because now we're going to kind of get into the intensive talk a little bit. And so now, just to be clear for anybody who's listening, right? This is so if you're a partner and you're listening, or if you're a guy thinking about going to BAI and listening. Hey guys, I just want to take a minute to share something deeply personal and transformative in my journey of recovery. I've been where you might be right now, struggling with the weight of addiction and feeling lost. But there's a place that offered me a new beginning, a place I truly believe in. It's called Begin Again Institute. At Begin Again, they understand the deep-rooted trauma behind addiction. Their 14-day intensive program for men tackles the neurobiological aspects of addiction head on. It's not just about breaking a habit. It's about understanding and healing the underlying trauma that formed it in the first place. And for those who have been impacted by betrayal, Begin Again extends care to partners of addicts too. Their partner support program is offered at no additional cost to the family and runs alongside the men's intensive. This program helps participants gain an understanding of the trauma they've experienced and sets them on their own path to healing. If you or someone you love are grappling with sexual addiction, pornography addiction, or intimacy issues, Begin Again Institute can be that pivotal step towards recovery and a new lease on life. Remember, you can't go back and change the past, but it's never too late to begin again. To learn more about their life-changing program, visit beginagaininstitute.com or call 720-776-9076 to reserve your spot in the next 2-week intensive. I promise, it'll be the best call that you ever make for yourself. Stay strong, keep fighting, and keep tuning in to No Lions Here for more conversations about recovery, resilience, and hope. Right? If you were a male client and you go to BAI, they have a partner program that runs alongside the 2-week stay. Now, the intensive piece, this is something completely separate. You don't have to have a partner that went through BAI. They don't have to be an alum. They don't have to be in it. It's your own separate intensive for the partners. So when you get partners that call, asking about this intensive, is there skepticism around this at all?
Like from the partners, you mean? Or
Yes.
from the
Yeah. Like, hey, I don't, are you guys real? Like, I think from the partner's perspective of things, I know that like my brain, like I was definitely sketched. Like I wanted to know all the details. I wanted, and they were like, no, we're not giving you the details. And they did that for a reason, and that made sense. But I can only imagine that, like, I actually had Matt on the show. Shout out to Matt Wanger. He actually said, "Yeah, Alex, we do that on purpose."
Yeah. Yeah, I know. We do too. We try to
So when you get a call from, and some secrets are okay. For the record, some secrets are okay. But you get this call, are these partners surprised that there's even this kind of program out there? What's kind of like an initial conversation look like?
That's a good question. I don't get a ton of those. I don't get those calls. We have an amazing admissions department at BAI, Heather, Dave, and Ryan. So they get a lot of those calls of just like the first time someone calls and it's like, what is this? But because we get a lot of our clients, a lot of our partners are coming from the fact that their partners, their men have gone through BAI. They've seen a change, they've seen a difference, and they start to think there's a possibility that this could be different, but they're still struggling. They're still, like you said, their perspective is still about all the relational dynamics that have been happening, the gaslighting, the dismissal. Like they're still living in that place. So the guy is trying to do his work. He's trying to be in recovery. He's trying to do all of the healing and all of the AVR and all of the Thanos and everything that you guys are taught. And even like you're taught to accept your pain as like a teacher now. Instead of running from it or numbing it, soothing it, your pain is now your teacher, And so I think the partners, they hear about this intensive and they hear about it through the PSP. So while their husbands while their partners are at BAI, they're hearing about this intensive. They're curious. And I have had a couple conversations with partners who, before they get there, like they'll send them sometimes to me to talk to them because I'm obviously there and I've helped develop this program. A lot of them, their perspective is still on their partners. Is this real? Is he still going to heal? Like, is he still going to do his recovery? Is this going to work? So a lot of times their focus is so on him that we try to get them to, like you said, to shift their perspective to say, okay, you got to let him kind of go. You have to like accept this place of, this is going to sound, it's so painful to say this to partners, like that your powerlessness over his recovery journey, like you got to let him do it. And then with that, like even like, and that pisses them off. Oh my gosh, pisses them off so much. But in that, I'm hoping that that will shift their perspective to say like, okay, but I now need some healing. Yes, from the relational aspect, but also from just the attachment wound that has happened. Like the trauma, happens inside of us. It's not what happens to us. It's what happens inside of us. And that has so much to do with our own
Mm-hmm.
stories, our own
Mm-hmm.
attachment to our parents. But if they could just shift the perspective for just a moment to say like, okay, I have to let him do his healing in his recovery journey. And I also deserve to be healed. I also deserve to understand this better. Because we bring in Nate Geyer, who's one of the, I know you know Nate from BAI. He's brilliant. We get to bring in Nate and he gets to share, what is up with my partner? Why did he choose this? Why is this not about me necessarily? And how can I believe that and shift that perspective just a little bit? So if I can like give them enough information, and if our admissions team can just give the partners enough to say like, you deserve healing too. You have been hurt. Your dreams have been shattered. Like your world is like a bomb just went off. Matt always says like the puzzle that you've been crafting for your life, like your children or your future or your retirement plans, it is now in 1,000 pieces on the floor. And so if you could just, you know, have the perspective shift and we can, give them just this opportunity to come and you need healing too. I think that's kind of where a partner, like their kind of skepticism about what this is going to do for them, like really will kind of shift. And if they could just like, I mean, I have partners come in the intensive and that first evening, they're like, what are you going to do for me? Like every, you know, the shit has hit the fan. This is hell. Like, what are you going to do for me? I'm just here. A lot of them are just like, I'm just here. There's this attitude, there's this shame over them. Like, well, it's just done. Like, there's no hope. But it's crazy if they can just hang on to us for like the first hour or two when they first arrive in Colorado with us. That skepticism starts to melt. And a lot of things we do, like we do a lot of experiential work with them. We do a lot of gestalt. Like we do a lot of like where they're, like experiencing some of the triggers that they're gonna we want to run from stuff like that as humans, but we're gonna like put it in front of them and in a safe place have them face the triggers and ask the questions and go deeper. And so I think once they kind of talk to the admissions, if they have a coach, like if like, I know Natalie and Crystal lead the PSP and they also are coaches that lead the continuing care groups, so as they're talking to Natalie and Crystal about their own healing journey, I think all of this starts to turn their skepticism into like a little, like, do I give myself a little bit of hope? And by the end of the week, like when I get to be with him in the intensive, I mean, it's like night and day. I've had women who come in and I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't, this is going to be hard. Like, this is going to be, they're pissed. They're not looking me in the eye even. And by the end of the week, they're like embracing and crying and hugging and like, whether they stay with their partner or not, they've started to have that like the healing and the hope and the understanding. That's another long answer, but yeah, the skepticism is pretty normal, but a lot of times
Yeah.
it's not directed
Yeah.
at them.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense, man. Like, talk about, hey, we just need you to get in this seat. Look, you don't have to have any other expectations. You can be completely hopeless. However, the fact of the matter is, and I try to tell people this in the drug and alcohol treatment center is like, hey, you're in that seat. That's all that matters. Let's just go with that, right? Right now, whether I don't care what you're thinking, I don't care how skeptical you are, I don't care how hopeless you are, you're in that seat. That's a start. We all have to start somewhere. And so, man, like, and it just, hearing that, right? Hearing that, like, you get people that are like that in that seat. Because if I think back to my intensive, I had guys like that were in the seats, and the transformation that can come from just a little bit of open mindedness, just being open minded. And the selfish aspect of recovery, right? It's I always tell people there's almost with a couple there's three journeys that are going to happen, right? Your partner's got their own journey, you have your journey, and then if you choose to stay together, you have a journey together where you guys work on things together. We all have our separate, and then within that, you get to decide, okay, how much do you want to be a part of this? Because I know some guys and their partners are on a need to know basis, whereas me, I knew that I wanted a partner that was a little bit more involved in my recovery, because I want to be able to take things to my partner. I want to be able to tell my partner, hey, yeah, actually just last night I'm dealing with some stuff in my life right now, and I'm very uncomfortable. And it's some bigger stuff for me. And I remember I was driving last night to go play hockey, and it's about an hour drive for me, and I'm in the car, and I've got taken over by literally like a full body trigger, just euphoric recall, thinking about, man, I don't know if I can go the rest of my life without acting out. Like, my gosh. And like, I did some things for myself, and then I got to the rink, and the girlfriend called me, and I literally shared with her, I was like, my God, I had this, like, literally this full body trigger almost. I want to be able now. I don't necessarily go into like the full on details of what was involved in that trigger or what the thoughts were. That's kind of saved for my program people. But, just to be able to share that with her, and for her to not take that on with and be over anxious, that's what I need. Now, again, everybody's going to be a little different. So, you mentioned something, when these partners come to you, regardless if they stay with their partner or not, what is kind of like the language around that when they're in this intensive now? What's the language around that? If people are all kind of on the fence, how do you all kind of approach that in the intensive? Because I know that that's probably going to be one of the bigger questions that you guys get within the intensive is, should I stay with my partner or not?
Well, first, okay, wait, I just have a question because you said something really big. So
Yes.
how did your girlfriend learn to, like sit with you, and how did that happen that y'all have this intimacy where you can share with her, I just had this crazy trigger, and then she responded in such like comfort or love, or I don't know how you describe that, but how did she learn that?
Just conversations early on. I had a plan whenever I went into dating. Because what's really interesting is, like, dating is actually a tool in the program that I work, SCA, Sexual Compulsives Anonymous. Dating is actually a tool, and it can be very empowering. And I had this dating plan that I went through with the sponsor, and essentially it came down to, okay, hey, like, we're gonna have some pretty tough, uncomfortable conversations before things get physical, before we really move on. And so we had a lot of conversations around, like, hey, look, like, one of the biggest things I told her was, like, I can't promise that I will never act out or ever use drugs and alcohol ever again in my life. I can't make that promise. What I can promise you is that I'm going to work my program to the best of my ability and use these tools that I have. Also, one of the things too I wanted to stress to her was, like, hey, this isn't about you. Like, my triggers, my acting out, like, it has nothing to do with you. And I think that's one of the things that I think that is really important for a partner to try to understand, is that, like, again, we kind of mentioned this earlier on in the show, like, just because my partner is sexually addicted does not mean that more sex within the relationship is going to fix them. And so, yeah, so just a lot of uncomfortable conversations early on before we crossed into the physical intimacy was just like, hey, I want you to know who I am, and what I've been through, and here's what I'm doing. Also, too, that was the other thing, is she saw from very early on, kind of what my program looked like as far as, like, my recovery goes.
Yeah. So you were able to honor her in the very beginning with a choice. Like you let her have a choice, basically.
Yep.
And yeah,
100%.
and that's yeah.
100%,
That's so and that's what I was getting like
yeah.
when you asked me like should I stay or should I go? Like that question. And yeah, partners have that question all the time. They show up to intensives and actually I get to talk if they come in with a therapist, like if a therapist has recommended them, or if, they come and they have a therapist, I get a chance to have a conversation with their therapist ahead of time. And most therapists will ask me, is this a program where you guys are going to make them like stay? Are they going to be kind of coerced into like, you have to stay with him? Or like, like some programs are kind of, and I'm like, no, absolutely
Yep.
not. We do not should on them. They should not should on themselves. But what you just said, it's like your girlfriend had a choice in the beginning to say, okay, well, I'm gonna stay with Alex. Like I'm gonna, be part, like, I don't know, part of his healing journey or like along with him, see what happens. But you've like given her that freedom, the authenticity, the transparency. When our partners come in, that has been taken almost from them. Like they haven't had a choice because they didn't know. So when they get to the intensive, that's one of the like that space that they get, like physically space away from their partner to contemplate that. Like, okay, now I know the truth. And of course disclosure, a lot of times disclosure has not happened yet when we get partners. Sometimes a partner will come in and they've been through disclosure. But we prepare them for that. We prepare them for do not should on yourself. Let's wait. Let's see his like watch his feet in his own recovery because now you have a choice. And that is sometimes super scary, especially if you have children, if you have a mortgage, if you have retirement plans. But to be able to give them back that like, hey, now you do have a choice. Now you have autonomy. Let's figure out what that looks like. It is so scary. But yeah, that's a very legitimate question, and we love that question, and we love to just take time and slow down. We do a lot of work on even visioning, even trying to get their neural pathways to kind of fire. We know they say what fires together wires together, so like now we're like firing together. How do you build back your self-worth? How do you trust yourself again? All these things are designed for what you just said, give them that choice. And the more transparency he provides, the better it is, even though it's super scary. So that's a great question.
Yes. Yes. And so kind of along those same lines, like with the disclosure process. So I know that like disclosure kind of looks a little different for everybody. From what I've gathered, and again, you're the kind of the professional in this, is like it's not necessarily always encouraged to do disclosure like right away. Like if there hasn't been a full disclosure, a lot of times, from at least from my side of things, right, there's that trickle effect disclosure. I'm going to share a little bit here, a little bit here. I'm not really ready to disclose everything, but the partner's going, I want to know everything. I want to know everything. I'm sure that's something that you all see. What is your kind of advice around like disclosure and that process? And because I know, you know, sometimes the disclosure doesn't happen until 6 months later down the road, or 3 months, whatever it is. What's kind of your advice on disclosure for the betrayed partner?
We talk a lot about disclosure. And then if their partners have gone through BAI, I mean, you can attest to this, like they kind of stop you guys from any more trickle truth. Like they kind of have nicknamed it. Like don't just no more trickle truth.
Yep.
You are going to work your recovery and your healing. And if the partner is with us in the intensive, she's going to do her work to start healing, to start like how the trauma has affected her, how the relational dynamics have affected her, and all her triggers and all that. And so we really encourage them, yes, to wait. I think it's like 4 to 6 months minimum for a full disclosure, and then to do it like to prepare for it. I mean, I have 3 workbooks, from I think it's Dan Drake and Coddled. And so there's like this process that goes through, and she has to ask, have all of her questions out there, any questions she wants, and then he has to go through and like answer them. And whether that be like a timeline or whether that be like I've seen it done with different categories, like pornography category, actual physically acting out category, So yeah, so we highly, highly, highly recommend waiting. No more trickle truths, no more, side. Oh, like by the way, when I pass by this massage parlor, that's another, just to trust him and to wait, and try not to ask questions, write them down, just write, write, write. Have a therapist, of course, working with both of them. Usually we recommend she has a therapist, he has a therapist, and then they have a couples therapist. And then at the disclosure, it is like an event, and BAI recommends having a polygraph done, along with it, just so there is like no question anymore, which again he's giving her that choice. He's giving her the honor. Here's everything. It's out in the open now. Now I have to trust you with the choice. And then the partner has to hear that and process that, in a safe space with her therapist. And then she gets to make the choice. So yeah, it's a pretty humbling and courageous process, I feel, for both parts, for both parties. So yeah, that was kind of the big picture of it, I guess. But yeah, the stop trickle truth, I think that's the best.
Yeah, no, that
It's like right away, because she's been doing her Sherlocking, like we call it. Like she's been looking at phone records, credit card bills. Like her brain has just been like on overdrive trying to get some sort of control back. And we encourage them like, hey, like, I know that the desire is so there, but like, what's the desire coming from? Like, let's go deeper. So yeah.
yeah, that the choices, right? Just back to the choices and just the safety aspect of it too. I can imagine. I know that in my searching, and I'm just looking for safety and security here, which I can assume, that's what the partners are looking for as well, just safety and security. Because as human beings, that's so important to us. Man, and that's just in having these conversations, it's just again the parallel between the betrayed partner and the person that's in recovery. That's like there's so many parallels to the journeys, and actually a lot that we can I think that we can relate to in this. And so it's definitely eye opening for me again, to talk more about the betrayed partner and to give them a voice too, man. Like it just again, in my recovery journey, right? Man, there's a lot of help out there for me, in my addictions for sure. There's a lot of help out there. We're kind of riding this wave of like, especially within men's mental health, of like, hey, talk about it, right? We can define, we need to redefine what healthy masculinity is. And so like, hey, here's help. Here's, follow this. But then for the betrayed partner, again, that man, the shame and isolation piece, there's not so much just like that in your face help there for them. And I really hope that we can do something to help change that landscape, because I think it's so important that these partners be seen and heard.
Yeah, I agree, Alex. I agree. Yeah, well, our next intensive is for the partners is March 1st through 6th. So it would be we have some spots left. If anyone's out there and like is interested, our admissions team at BAI, they're phenomenal. They spend so much time and they care about each person that calls. I mean, the stories I hear sometimes with our admissions team and how they care for people, because a lot of times that's the first, that's the first, like someone's just kind of stepping their little toe out to see like, is there possible for me to be seen and heard in this and understood? So yeah, the admissions team, I think it's admissions@bai.care is how you can get in touch with them. Yeah, partner intensive March 1st through 6th is our first one of the year, and we'll have another one in May. But yeah, I think and if you're a dude out there and you have a special partner that is hurting and, in mind, you have got to be the one to like, encourage her to go. Encourage her that it's worth the money. I know a lot of partners joke, they're like, I would just rather go to Fiji and have like a massage every day. But I'm like, listen, that's round two. Let's get
That'd be
the
nice.
work done. Yeah, but like maybe I'm always joke with them. I'm like, maybe, round two, we're in Fiji and we're doing like post-traumatic growth work and we're talking about how, like how we have changed from this and how we've grown in intimacy with, maybe our partners or just others around us. How are we more authentic people because we've gone through this hard thing? But I think the first step is not Fiji and massages. It is literally the deep work of healing that pain and that hurt and that relational kind of, you know. And I always picture it as like my husband fly fishes. He's obsessed, and he
Yeah.
when I try to fish with him, it's always that ball of like fishing wire that's just like, but like I picture like that's sometimes that, our souls are like that. Like they're just a ball of like mess in like our relationship. And it just takes like a very gentle surgeon, a very gentle hand to kind of come and like start to piece apart, that tangled mess. And I think that's something we can do for partners at the intensive. And I know you have experienced that care and just being seen, with the dudes at BAI. So yeah, there's
Yes.
my
Yes,
plug.
yes. Help you untangle that mess.
Yeah.
Yes. No, thank you so much for that. That's so like we're coming up on the hour, and I want to be mindful of your time. Like a really interesting something that you said there was like it sounds like it's almost if your partner is betrayed, bring this up to them. And real quick, like what's some advice if like because I don't know that seems I heard you say that and that sounded really scary to me. If I'm a partner and I'm I see that look I went through BAI, right, and man I got a lot out of it, and man they're doing this partner intensive, and man my partner I think could really benefit from this. Like how does one kind of broach that topic of like, hey, maybe you should look into this without being like I don't know pushy, or you know what I'm saying. I hope the question makes sense here, but like yeah, how do you kind of
No, because it's
broach that
true. Because
topic?
it's like, yeah, a lot of partners will say that. They're like, why do I have to go away? And like, why do I have to get all this healing done? Because he's the one who messed up. It's him, not
Right.
just spending his
Mm-hmm.
money.
Yeah.
And I would say again, there's truth and there's reality that you have to face. Like if you're a betrayed partner, there is there has been an attachment rupture. There has been an attachment wound because you and your partner had like we're made for connection and you chose your partner however many years ago. It could be 1 year ago, it could be 30 years ago. But we're made for connection. We're made for each other. And so whatever happened, however the discovery happened, whether it was like one time and it was like everything came out, or if it was like over 10 years, you knew it was going on, you have been wounded. There has been a huge gap and a huge wound. So whether you're going to stay with him or not, and I know it's scary for a guy to bring this up, like, hey, you might need some healing. But if a guy was driving a car and he got into a car accident and his partner broke her leg, like she's been hurt by this accident. She has been like a what's the word where like collateral damage, not collateral damage, that sounds terrible. But like if he's driving the car and he crashed it, you didn't do that, but you're part of that trauma. Like
Right.
you've
It
been
wasn't her
hurt.
fault.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. It wasn't her fault, but she still needs to go to the hospital and get her leg healed. And it will take time and it will take space. And obviously this isn't necessarily a physical wound. It's deeper than that. It is physical in the sense of our nervous system and our attachment system is all kind of, joined in that. But I think for a man to just approach it if he's betrayed his partner as like, hey, I know this is my fault. Like I'm owning this, but I want you to be able to have space to heal, and I want you to have space to understand more what happened, like why maybe I chose this. And then inevitably, our partners will come out of this intensive with, wow, like I do understand him more. There is more empathy, but I think she has more trust in herself, whether she stays or goes. She has more understanding of her own attachment story with her own parents, her own caregivers. So I think the car accident, if you will, exposes a lot of hurt and pain that, we all need to be cared for and seen and have a tribe around you too. That's another thing. Whether she stays or goes, she comes out of this intensive with a tribe of women who are surrounding her for, I mean, maybe forever. We had a group come in last March,
Yep.
and then they had like a reunion this summer. Like they all got together and had a reunion and they're still talking, they're still supporting each other. So, but yeah, that's a good question. I think the dudes just have to be brave and approach it as like, you deserve healing too. It's my fault,
Yep.
but this is important, So yeah.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Raina, thank you so much. Again, I think there's so many different topics and so many different avenues that we could go down right now. And so I definitely want to, have you back on to talk a little bit more. But we got on and we're like, all right, we'll talk about the intensive. But definitely, I want to give you space to talk about the intensive. So maybe on the next episode, we actually kind of get in down into the intensive piece of this. But Raina, thank you so much for coming on and being willing and just spreading the message, right? Like this is what it looks like. And so I just thank you so much for your time and coming on. And I look forward to to keeping up and staying up with you guys. And yeah, just thank you so much. I'm so blessed.
Thanks, Alex. I'm blessed too. It was an honor to be, a part of this. I know you've come so long, like such a long way since BAI, and I just am so encouraged about what you're doing. And I tell everybody about your podcast. So keep doing it. It's really refreshing.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you. That means a lot to me. So more than you know. So thank you so much. I really appreciate that. So yeah, so Raina, now that you're allowed to come back on whenever you want. If you get a wild idea and hey, I got this idea, Alex, let's go. Let's do it. I'm all in. So you are a guest for life. So definitely if anybody wants to check out whether it be, BAI for the men or the partner intensive, definitely check out the information will be in the description below. So definitely go check them out and let them know the Big Panda sent you. Raina, thank you so much as always. And again, keep coming back. It works if you work it, and you're worth it. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, Alex. Bye.